Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the I'll Try That podcast. Now this week we have a full accompaniment within the bar. We have Simo joining us from Australia.
Huzzah!
Barber and Drabwell.
Oh yes.
And of course that's me.
And Joe. Joe's here too. Have you heard?
So this week we're going to be taking a travel to the land of the rising sun and talk about one of the Japanese beers we haven't sampled yet, which is Sapporo.
Doesn't the sun rise everywhere?
Yeah, but
it's known as the land of the rising sun.
It's not the house of the rising sun. That's in that's in New Orleans, actually.
But first, I believe we have Simo with a hot topic for us.
yes. So
He doesn't sound convinced.
So I thought I'd just have a quick chat about something called liquid gold, where it's turning stale beer into renewable energy in Australia. So this has come about obviously due to the corona pandemic, and basically because they didn't want it to go to waste, they converted it into using a wastewater treatment plant, and basically it's a plant that creates a strong biogas. Which is used for power.
There's a couple of people in attendance who are guilty of that as well.
It's repurposed 150,000 litres of expired beer every week.
So this has been set up, this is an initiative that's been set up to convert stale beer into something usable, this biogas, which can be used for vehicles, for use for industrial, like power, energy source, basically.
So actually it's been used to power houses and the local area and things like that. SA Water's Glenegg Wastewater Treatment Plant in Adelaide.
It's easy for you to say.
Yeah, I know, right? So that weekly 150,000 litres is enough power for how many houses do we think?
7.
Yeah. 8.
I'd say 30,000 houses.
Travis has a habit of low-town these things,
big town.
doesn't he?
Yeah.
I always throw the curveball.
I'm going to go in the... No, I'm going to go high. I was maybe in the middle. I will go with 52,000 houses.
Okay, so it's actually only 1,200 houses, but a week. But that's a week. So
I was the closest.
Yeah, I'm going for a year.
and actually, this is free for them. Like, as in, people have been donating. So, like, pubs and stuff have just been donating it. So this treatment plant's actually getting it for free, essentially.
Well, yeah, because it's waste. Everyone's got their waste to get rid of, which you otherwise have to pay to get rid of your waste.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't tip stale beer just down the sink and just, wish for the best on this industrial scale. You've got to pay someone to collect it from your beer, from your brewery, and then take it away and then get rid of it. Whereas actually, if there's a service that's being offered up to say, we'll do it for free, then people are like, yeah, come get it.
So it's those huge containers. Well, I don't know what you call them. The massive trucks, like the cylinder trucking looking things that obviously carry oil and things. They've been just...
But then obviously they've emptied out from tanks, obviously, for the waste of it.
So pretty cool.
How many, did you say 1,200 houses?
A week, yeah.
I was going to say that I'm all for renewable energy and everything like that. But why have we got so much beer wastage? Isn't that another problem?
Well, it's the pandemic, isn't it?
It's the pandemic, so it's all the pubs that couldn't sell their products. So it is a problem, and it is a massive problem. But
loads of people have been trying to figure out what to do with it, haven't they? Because you remember we did a few hot topics in the past about all the amount of beer that was going to waste because brewers were obviously putting it in kegs or in tankers and sending it around and stuff.
In Hawaii, the stream.
Indeed, yeah. Although I think we were being optimistic that was an accident rather than on purpose. But then, and just that lockdowns meant people couldn't go into pubs. So the shelf life is normally about 3 weeks for cask beer, isn't it? And then 3 months normally for keg.
And cans as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Cans have a slightly longer shelf life, but you should be putting them... fun fact, you should be putting your cans and beer in the fridge to be stored as soon as you get it, not leaving them in a store cupboard, because they need to be at
consistently
fridge
cold
temperature.
Ah, decent. But
which is another reason why everyone needs to have their own beer fridge. That's it.
Well, since when we went round yours, Joe's, recently, and we saw your wine beer fridge, I've now been adamantly looking for one because I was very jealous of it. And I've even found the location where I would like to put it. I will own one by the end of the year, I've decided.
And of course,
nice. Okay.
Any beer fridge manufacturers who happen to be tuned in, we're happy to do a comparison on the quality of your products. Hit us up.
I'm very happy to upgrade my beer wine fridge situation as well. Separate the two.
So what's the
Never
difference?
two shall meet.
What's the difference between a beer wine fridge and a beer fridge?
What you put
the
in?
name?
As in, no, but does it have special slots for wine?
I'm sure the configuration inside would be ever so slightly different. But the wine it is primarily a wine fridge that I've converted into a beer fridge, obviously for this podcast, for no other personal reasons. And
I
yeah,
don't do
it's
beer
just got
fridges.
the
I only
slats.
do wine fridges, friends. Yeah.
But you can fit significantly more beer in it than you can wine. I'm just going to put it out there.
Can you adjust the temperature on each level of your fridge?
No, it's not that fancy.
Okay, because I've heard that there is an option out there to do that, and I just remember how much Drabbers liked me banging on about the various different levels of warmth that beer should be stored at. I thought we could go really granular with it again, but we have digressed a little bit already.
Yeah, story of our life.
I think this is going to happen with 4 people. I just feel like this is a natural progression.
Well, I think it's going back to the biogas coming out of it. Obviously, all countries. I want to say it's not even just breweries, but all countries are looking for ways of dealing with this issue of wastage. And to your point, Travis, breweries have got a big responsibility on their shoulders to reduce the amount of waste created within the brewing process itself. We hear all about breweries doing that, the Brewdog's full cycle, kind of production method, the fact that there are dog biscuits being made out of waste, waste beer produce now and stuff. So there are all these different ways that breweries are trying to do it. But this sounds like this big plant has been done on a country level.
I was going to say, so I use this app at the moment called Food to Go, which is businesses like, say, you've got your Greggs, Marks and Spencers, Morrison's, like pizza restaurants and all this sort of stuff. At the end of the evening, they will stick out on this app any wastage food that they've got to go. So like yesterday, I ended up with 2 extra large Meat Feast pizzas for £6 from this pizza place, and you just go around and you pick them up and they give you the time to come do that. We should take that idea, but for breweries and beer. That's
a great idea.
Yeah, if you've got, and then you can like reserve it, and then they give you a spot to go and get it. But we should do that for breweries and stuff. I would love that.
I think it's perfect. I do think that there are elements of that already occurring in the local areas to breweries, but it must be on a very small scale. Because, if you live next or near a brewery and you've got a good relationship there, when is the right time to go to the brewery to get the cheaper beer, right? The cheaper beer that's ready to go. But you're right. They need to put an app to it, that you can get it.
I would be 100% would quite happily drive for free beer.
Yeah, exactly.
This is that.
Exactly. So this week we're going to be talking about Sapporo premium beer from Japan. Now, who's got a start date for old Sapporo?
1950.
I got much older.
It is. I've got confused.
you just threw a date out there.
Just want to throw some fake news out at the start.
There is a reason for 1950, which we'll come on to later, but it is not what you asked for. Carry on.
Number 3 will shock you.
No, yeah. So, I believe Sapporo is the oldest brand of beer in Japan and founded in the year of 1876.
Yeah, don't like my 1950 fact, just because it isn't true.
1876. That's incredible. That is incredible. So it started up in. Maybe Barbara can let you do all of the Japanese pronunciations because you did pretty good earlier on. But so Hokkaidō Development Commission. So this is a place, Hokkaido, is that right?
Yeah.
Do we know where in Japan Hokkaido is?
So, it's the most northern island of Japan. It's like if you look at the the thing, it's like the slightly secular. Is secular the right word? The island just above, like
non-religious.
No.
That means
No, it's definitely not
the right word.
Oh, do you know what that is?
Definitely not the right word.
Do you know what that is? I've definitely
Secluded?
been doing a lot of history recently, and that's definitely a word I've been using. So it's a word it's a word. It's an island that's the most northern island of Japan. I'm just going to finish there and just move on.
And it's separated. Is that the word you're looking for?
Probably, but as in it's not. It's as in you have to get a boat.
It's not joined.
Yeah.
it
Not
is not a
connected.
peninsula.
Yeah, and basically Hokkaido is one of the biggest cities in Japan as well. So it's in a very populous place.
So Godzilla would probably go there.
I feel like you've got some good. No, no.
Sapporo is the capital. So actually, everyone tickle about the beer. You're actually sort of the name of the city. So liken it to England if there was a beer just called Manchester, right? But I think I read like 5 million people live in Sapporo. So yeah, you're right. It's really, really populous.
Now, you might be wondering, and I was just reading about this, why Sapporo? Why Hokkaidō? Why was this brewery created there, which as you said, Simo, is the first brewery within Japan itself. And it's coming out of its very isolationist kind of period. 1876, Japan up to that point had been very much shunning the outside world and very looking on the inside. This all came about because a man named Saibei Nakagawa.
Saibei Nakagawa.
Now, the story of this guy is very fascinating. He was a 17-year-old who was a stowaway on a ship and found himself in Europe, where he learned from the Berlin Brewing Company and became a brewmaster. So he was Japan's first ever brewmaster.
So I was going to say, sorry, just to go back. So when he stowed away, he was there was the possibility if he'd been found out, he would have been executed, because at the time it was incredibly illegal and highly illegal, and that people weren't allowed to leave the state without the proper authentication and paperwork.
So he jumped ship. Oh no, he not jumped ship. No. He jumped country.
I think he went to England for 7 years. I think it said.
He did some time, Europe. So I've just got that he just Europe. So he did some time in England.
Yeah.
And then he obviously got to Germany at some point to learn the brewing techniques for Germany. And then he found his way back. And the original intention was that he was going to be setting up this brewery, the first ever brewery, in the capital, Tokyo, which had just become the newly inaugurated capital of Tokyo. We're still talking about the formation of Japan as an island, outside of daimyo and districts, etc. So, this is just 1876. Tokyo had just been made the capital of Tokyo, as it's like the seat of government. Why it then got to this place in Sapporo, up in this northernmost island, is because of this Hokkaidō Development Commission. Does anyone have any idea about why that?
I believe I know this, and I believe the answer in a word is the climate. Hokkaido being that bit further north, it is a rather more wintry climate, not sort of subtropical like it would have been in Tokyo. And I believe tied into that is that cost of getting hold of ice was very high. So they thought, why don't we just set up where the ice is?
That kind of actually makes a lot of logical sense.
In fact, for anyone who remembers it, I'm a big fan of old episodes of The Simpsons, and there's a whole thing about a guy bringing back bags of ice from the Arctic. It's like, you've got to start charging more than $1 a bag for this because we lost another 3 men. Because if you've got a better way of getting ice, I'd like to hear it.
We've now got 5 breweries over the internationally. And I was just going to say, boy,
I've got 6 beers, I'm afraid. I've got 6 here.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. How about this? The 5 I've got, and then Joe can add his final one. I was going to ask, where do we think they are around the world? Because I just want to have how far spread do you think they are? Is what I mean.
Well, there's definitely got to be one in America.
Yeah.
Okay, you are right. There's one in the United States.
I think there's going to be some real curveball in there as well. There's one in Chad or something like that.
So I've got one in Canada, which was purchased by Sapporo in 2006 for $400 million. I then obviously have the one in the United States, as we said, in Wisconsin. Is that how you say it? Yeah. La Crosse, Wisconsin, and then Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, it makes sense for Vietnam, where it is Japan. That is catering to the Southeast Asia, isn't it? Not just in that part of Asia.
Interestingly, Vietnam is where I got mine from, because that's where they produce the 650 cans for Australia. And then Germany, I've got one in Dusseldorf, Germany.
Those locations also struck me as they're continuing along the lines of going where it's cold. However, Vietnam, on the other hand, I guess less so.
Well, it does make a point of brewing beer in tropical climates and different climates as well. Obviously we've talked quite highly about a lot of the beers that are brewed in quite tropical environments. In the likes of Vietnam and Singapore and such. But it must be a very different kettle of fish, especially with a brand where you're trying to create the same beer across the globe, which is what Sapporo is trying to do. Then obviously they have to do very different takes on the beer process in order to create the same beer at the end for these different climates. Now has 6 breweries in Japan. So there's 6 breweries in Japan. That's where we've got 6. And then you've got one in Vietnam, Canada, and the US. That's what I've got.
So it's 4 internationally, and then they obviously have the Japanese ones.
I wondered if there was 5, whether this was because, and I can't help but think Sapporo might have been copying other... well, actually, sorry, I'd have to get my timelines right on this, but there's been a bit of breweries copying each other's homework, because I noticed Sapporo have got a star. just like Australia we did the other week. Someone else has got a star, and is it going to be the 5 points? What are the 5 points going to be, Drabbers? I was going to say maybe they're the breweries around the world, but they could very well be the 5 ingredients of beer, which is almost like a catchphrase on this podcast.
Well, the star has always been the quintessential, like, this is beer. The sign of beer, the mark of beer was a star, isn't it? That's like the old timey. I don't think it was so much in the UK, but in other countries where you'd go and get beer was from a shop with a star.
Heineken, we talked about that with Heineken.
Like, I've never, until you mentioned it then, I didn't really associate, I always knew there were stars across every single kind of brewer, but it kind of is the international sign. It's kind of like the bat signal for beer. Like, you'd want to see that up in the sky, and you would know, head towards there, beer man's coming or something. Like,
Blue Moon were breaking the mold. It's just like, everyone else has stars, we have the moon. However, if you did project that onto the sky, people would just go, oh look, it's the moon, instead of beer. Tenuous, I know.
Now, bring it down into slightly sadder news, I suppose. If we're talking about, the recent years and the recent history of Sapporo, and, the fact that this brewery's been around since 1876. Now, does anyone have any idea about what's happened to the first brewery? Because I was thinking, a lot of breweries tend to take their first brewery and they obviously grow out of that space. They build new breweries, they move on, but they usually keep their
like a museum.
their one and turn it into a museum. Exactly. Now Sapporo didn't do that. It's now become a shopping mall.
Oh, you can probably buy Sapporo in there though.
No, has it just gone, we don't need the site anymore, we'll just sell it?
So in 1993, they transferred the beer production to another place. The original 1876 Kaitakushi brewery was redeveloped and now houses offices and a shopping mall and a movie theatre live there. So it wasn't even like it's there anymore. It's kind of like redeveloped.
I was saying forward thinking. I mean, there's a Sapporo beer museum.
But it's not the original brewery, as we now know, is demolished or it's not there.
I do love a good brewery tour.
Exactly. I mean, I'm sure it'd be still a good tour. People were talking about the future. Has anybody gone on their website and had a look around at the Sapporo website?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the slogan that they've got like all over the place, which is where East meets West? Is quite. Yeah. I've noticed that they're doing a lot of like linkage with food, which I think we've always said is quite a popular thing. But also
every brewer ever,
and then obviously they've got this link with artists, bartenders, and DJs, and they've got all these supposedly famous artists, bartenders, and DJs, which now I feel really old because I didn't recognise any of them.
You're just not very cool, mate. That's all.
No, I'm just not very cool. But DJ Callum X and DJ Liquor.
Oh no,
and DJ Liquor.
Liquor.
Licca. So maybe Lisa. I don't know.
Again, these also could be DJs that aren't that popular in the UK, but they'll be popular in other countries.
Yeah. And then the bartender,
we tend to think of ourselves as being the epicenter of all pop culture, but actually, it's
and then the bartender, Junior Sausage.
Come again?
I actually think it's Sassage. So it's like SSAGE.
That's better.
That reminds me of that Johnny Depp perfume advert. That's it's Johnny Depp looking all moody in front of the word sauvage, and someone's like rubbed out the V and put an S, so it says sausage.
So I was going to say, my favourite thing I found out about Sapporo is they had probably one of the coolest collaborations I think we've had so far on this podcast. They collabed with the Russian Academy of Science. So what they did was they got some of the barley from the International Space Station that was grown and cultured and made beer from it, so you could have rocket beer.
That's pretty
sweet. So the research project aimed to explore food sufficiency.
Say those words to me again. They made rocket beer. How did you make rocket beer?
So they
sent barley into space.
Yeah, so it was barley that was grown on the International Space Station. So once resided on the International Space Station, And then they brought a handful of seeds back, and then they made, basically from the barley, they made their own beer. And then they had like a big raffle, so everyone could pay, I think it was like the equivalent of £86 or something like that. And you could buy a raffle ticket to get a 6-pack of this beer that was grown from barley that had been in space. It's a space beer. Which I think is the coolest collaboration.
And to say that the limited edition, all the proceeds went to charity, just to put that point in there, because I thought that was quite a nice touch, actually.
Absolutely incredible. Like, that's such a cool thing to have
I've never heard of a space beer before.
Space beer!
I bet that beer was even more expensive than the beer Trabbers got that was collaborated with that band.
Oh, the Blossoms, yeah.
Where the proceeds went into their back pockets, not to charity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds bad, but I'm actually surprised that they did it all for charity. Like, I don't know why, but I was like, oh, that's pretty sweet. I really like that. It's good.
So we had to talk about the can. Now, Sima, you're fashioning the can for us right now. Now, this is a big boy can. Anyone who's noticed Sapporo, you've probably seen them in a bottle, but you will definitely have spotted or have recognised a Sapporo can because it is unique, to say the least.
It's heavy.
Actually, the metal itself is much stronger than the aluminium in standard cans, but it's flexible enough to be moulded into a tumbler glass shape. It's quite an unusual shape, isn't it? It's really tall and big, and the can is designed to feel weighty and originally featured a removable top that allowed drinkers to enjoy the container as if it was a pint glass, which they've now phased out. But that was quite cool. You could almost get rid of the top, and then you've just got this tumbler of beer.
I like that.
Like, it sounds silly, but it feels and looks like a pint glass, like a silver pint glass. It's actually really cool. And it is, as you said, it's actually very heavy.
What's the ABV?
4.7.
Yeah.
5%.
4.7.
Mine's always more because I'm in Australia.
Oh no!
Oh, and just to say that Australia has just been dubbed the
drunkest country in the world.
That's it. The drunkest country in the world.
Do you know why? Do you know why? Because it's bloody hot. Well, especially in Queensland. So it's just too hot. You need to cool down. And the best way to cool down, as we know, is in the cold shower.
Water.
To have a nice, refreshing lager beverage. So, Joe, this is the premium beer. Okay. Now, I've been told that there are more than 3, and I thought there were only 3. So, do you know those bad boys?
Who told you?
You've got their Sapporo Premium Beer, which comes in the bottles and the cans that we see. And I will read the descriptors for each of these because I think they're fantastic. Amazingly crisp, perfectly balanced taste. They have Sapporo Premium Light Beer, which is a smooth and clean taste inherited from Sapporo Premium. Sapporo Reserve Beer, a full-bodied all-malt beer with intense complexity.
That's how they describe me.
Sapporo Pure, an exceptionally light beer with only 90 calories and 2.4 carbs.
That's how they talk about me.
And then Sapporo Premium Black Beer, a bold, dark lager.
Sorry, say it again. Hit the descriptors.
Sapporo, I knew that was going to Sapporo Black Beer, Premium Black Beer, a bold, dark lager that exudes a refined hop bitterness.
Yeah, that's me.
Nice.
That's interesting.
I exude
and they invite you to experience the darker side of Sapporo.
But is this the evil beer?
It does seem like the evil beer.
Yeah.
Evil.
Kampai. Does anybody know in Japanese? Because they have that on one of their descriptors for the drinks. Kampai.
Isn't it cheers?
That makes sense.
Kampai?
Kampai.
No.
Yeah, it's what they say when they're like, cheers. It's kampai.
Okay,
kampai.
Okay.
Yeah. That wasn't meant to be a Japanese accent, by the way. That was just me going, kampai.
Okay. Drebwell, tell me about the taste. Do it.
Well, I clearly liked it because I finished it. Which is, that's testament to them.
Was it exceptionally crisp and refreshing?
Oh, amazingly crisp.
Amazingly.
Clean.
Yeah. I think I'm again taken in by the like the silver everywhere. That to me is that kind of clean, clinical, crisp.
So I have to relate this back to Asahi because this is the closest thing we have to benchmark against. It's another Japanese beer that's been around for a long time and it's hitting the same kind of taste palette, this crisp, amazingly crisp, but clean and well-balanced premium lager. And also Asahi refers to their lager as being a premium product, doesn't it? I find, if I'm comparing the two, I actually find Asahi's is to be that little bit crisper. So they win on the crispiness. in comparison to
Just you wait till this guy discovers crisps.
The crispiest.
Forget the beer. These things are amazing.
I feel like it's got that kind of a very different kind of honey, kind of like a thicker texture maybe than Asahi, and I prefer this immensely. I absolutely love this at the moment.
You do? I don't know. I'm on the fence. I think I prefer Asahi.
I'm with you, Joe. I'm with you. I think I prefer Asahi. I think Asahi. They're both nice beers, but I think Asahi pins it to the post. And I think they're both very similar branded as well. If you look at their websites, if you look at the actual bottle and the kind of design they're going for clean cut, they're going for clinical, and they're going for slightly futuristic. Like you look at the can that Simo has, I think they're both very similar products, but I think that's just the way the market is.
For balance as much as anything else, I'm going to side with Simo. Yeah, I like Sapporo. The only thing that's a drawback is obviously just over here, Asahi far more readily available, and therefore you can get it at a better cost. So sorry to take it to a really practical sounding place, but I like Sapporo. That's gone down very smoothly indeed, and it's that 6 o'clock in the evening, long day. I could very happily take it to a few of those.
It's interesting you say about being readily available, because I'm just looking on the back of the bottle and it says it's under license by Diageo Ireland.
Yeah.
St. James's Gate. So obviously they are making or producing or doing something with Sapporo, or have the distribution rights to Sapporo in the UK. Must be.
Well, because I think that's the same here. So I was just going to say that's pretty much the same here. Like there's a Cooper's Brewery, which is in Australia, in South Australia, is just getting it from Vietnam, essentially. So it's made in Vietnam and they have the rights to distribute it. So I think it seems very, very common to get it here.
You could see those cans coming out like those vending machines, couldn't you?
Yeah. It's such a distinctive can, and I love it. I do love the cans. I love when you pick one up, because it feels really, it feels really different when you've got it in your hand, because it is such a bigger can than those 330ml that you usually get. So looking at numbers on Instagram, Sapporo Beer USA, which is their biggest Instagram account, has 12k followers.
Okay.
On Twitter, I'll do Sapporo Beer USA, they have 552 followers, and Sapporo Beer UK have 16 followers. So again, they have a very different presence in different countries. I'm sure if you go to Sapporo Beer Australia, if they even have one, it might be something different.
I'm going to do it. I'm sorry. I hate myself for this as well. It's just you guys know how anal I am. Drabbers, you said pins them to the post. It's pips them to the post. I had to say it. Otherwise, if I didn't, I was going to wake up in cold sweats tonight. And
it would have been even worse if we'd made you edit this one as well, and then you'd be editing it like shouting at the screen at the same time.
I can't now edit me saying that in over Drabbers saying it.
I actually feel like you would do that.
Wrap up to this episode.
Yeah. Get a Sapporo. Have a go.
And pip it to the post.
And that's all we have time for this week's episode of the I'll Try That podcast. And so from me, Joe, Rich,
Barber,
and Simo,
goodbye. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram,
Twitter,
I'll try that podcast.com,
and watch us on YouTube.
Goodbye now.